Thank you very much for joining us live on Holyhills Radio. Definitely your champion station on your super duper radio station.
Come in, Lord. Come in, sweet Jesus.
The program is Echoes of Grace. My name is Bismark Somuah right here. And tonight is going to be something else. It's going to be fireworks. So call a friend to call a friend to call a friend to join us live on Echoes of Grace. This Isaac Pinto is the CEO of Holyhills Radio, of course, the one controlling the machines for us. We're streaming live from Reynoldsburg, Ohio. Mr. Chris Aduteria is the producer of this wonderful program, also assisted by Anita in team, and we are blessing God for all the things that He's done for us here at Holyhills Radio. The inspiration that we have for this week, and we are going to share that with you briefly. We are going to talk about where John directed everybody to look unto Jesus as the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. That is John chapter 1 verse 29. He said, "Behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." One of the greatest need of human beings is our relationship with God. And how can we have a relationship with God without righteousness? Righteousness is a gift that comes from God. It's by the Lamb of God who was slain. Jesus died on the cross so that our sins will be forgiven, so that we will have a relationship with God. So the Bible rightly says that we have been saved by grace through faith. It's a gift of God. Not of works, lest any man should boast. So we need to walk in that consciousness that we have been saved by grace. And what is our gift to God? Our salvation is a gift. And what do we also have to give to God? John says, looking unto Jesus, looking unto Him for everything. We're looking unto Him as our source of hope and our source of inspiration. Once again, the program is Echoes of Grace right here on Holyhills Radio, streaming live from Reynoldsburg, Ohio. And tonight, I'm privileged. I have a wonderful, wonderful woman of God.
How great is
I'm still going to talk about the issues confronting the youth.
How great is His name?
She's a wonderful, a very smart lady.
He's the greatest.
She's Yvonne Annnor.
Am
I right?
Yeah. Forever the same.
Yeah, so we are going to talk about issues confronting the youth. We know the youth are going through a lot. So far, we have some wonderful, wonderful people here at the studio. We've had Michelle, Anita, and of course, Jocelyn, my twin sister. Today, I also have one of my favorite ladies right here. Welcome. Yeah, so invite somebody to join us. We are going to talk about issues confronting the youth. I know you also have a contribution. Later on, we'll be opening the phone line for you to make a contribution to what we have to discuss. We are going to talk about deep stuff. We are going to talk about all the things that the youth go through. First of all, welcome. And let me find out, where were you born?
I was born in Bronx, New York.
What do you know about Bronx, New York?
That's where a lot of my family live on my mom's side. And it's a very, very busy place. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of...
You have to speak up, please.
Okay, well, there's a lot of people there. And it's not just like one race or ethnicity. You know, there's like a lot of people.
Wow.
Of different races.
Have you been there recently?
No, but I think the last time I was there was 2012.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and did you like it?
It was very cold and it was snowing. So, and if you know me, I get very cold easily and I don't like the snow. But I mean, it was nice having family around and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's not bad.
Wow, wow, wow. Yeah. So, which stage are you in? I mean, which level are you in school? You are in high school, right?
Yes.
Which
I
grade?
am in 12th grade. I'm a senior.
Okay. And what are your plans?
Um, I mean, my plans are the basic, to go to college and become either a nurse or a journalist.
A nurse or a journalist? You haven't
Yes.
made up your mind yet.
No.
But which side are you leaning towards?
Um,
Journalist.
kind of. Yeah. I'll say that, kind of.
Okay, okay. Holyhills is here. If you want to start your internship, can allow you to be a journalist here and report to us.
Thank
Okay,
you.
that's cool. That's cool. Why do you think the youth of these days are going through so much and they still cannot open up? Why do you think these things are happening?
Um, I think that the youth, we're going through so much and we still can't open up because of, I think, the backlash that some people get when they do open up. So I think that is one of the main sources. And also, I think a lot of people don't know who to go to.
They don't know who to go to. And with you, who do you go to?
That's a good question. Well, I do have a couple of brothers. They're not blood brothers, but they've been there. So I do have a couple of brothers that I normally go to, or a couple of my lady friends. But I think if it is more deep, deep things, I think I've kind of learned to deal with them myself, kind of. Normally, I just take them into prayer and, go to war with them, and then I leave it to God.
Okay, okay. Do you think parents should talk to their kids about relationship and sex and all the deep stuff?
Yes, I do.
And why so?
I think that if the parents don't, someone else will teach their children about it, and they might end up teaching their kids the wrong thing. And I mean, that's the only thing that the child will know, so they'll think that it's right. And I think it also it opens a gateway for your kids to be able to talk to you about anything, because I think relationships and sex are one of the things that are kind of like a taboo in the African community. But I think that once you open, that up and you allow them to talk to you about that, I think that it's a gateway for them to talk to you about a lot of other things too.
Okay, okay. And what do you think should be the role of the church when it comes to yeah, sex education and also on relationships?
Um, that's a good question. I think that the role that the church should play, um, I feel like there should be some education in sort, as in the spiritual aspect
Mm-hmm.
of it, because there are a lot of spiritual aspects that do come with having sex before marriage. But I think that they should come in that way, and also, I mean, in reality too, because I mean, we do live in
A
a
real
world of,
world.
yeah, reality. So I think that's how the church should come into play.
What do you know about the spiritual aspect of it?
Well, I
Because
know that
yeah, there are a lot of people who are going through a lot of stuff.
I know that it is one of the things that it's a sin that defiles the body in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I see it as it's a sin that you cannot go back on. Once you lose your virginity, I mean, you
That
lose
is
it.
it.
So I think that's one of the things, and I also think that soul ties. You don't know what spirits are dealing with that person at the time, or I mean, you really don't know the person. That's why I think when it comes to marriage, there's so much counseling and prayers and all that, because you don't know what's after the person. You don't really know who they are, and when you do have intercourse, this is kind of graphic, but you're pouring you're pouring into each other,
Mm-hmm.
and that can be taken into the spiritual aspect that you don't know what the person's pouring into you and that person doesn't know what they're pouring into you. So that can bring a lot of, spiritual,
Links.
yeah, and like spiritual attacks onto yourself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So why is it that people are still going into all this kind of relationship and they are getting their hearts broken and stuff, and yet people are getting into it, even though they know all this kind of stuff. What is the issue?
I think that I think that people just are very, very curious, and so they want to try it. And I think I know a lot of like young people at my school. You know, they want to do they want to learn from their mistakes. They don't want their parents to, I guess, avoid them going through that mistake because they think that's what will make them grow. And I also think that people don't really get the spiritual aspect of it. Because, I mean, as a Christian, I mean, that is one of the big things. And I think that's what they don't talk to us about a lot. It's more of you're going to get pregnant and all that. They don't really talk to us about the spiritual aspect of it. So I think that that's what a lot of people don't know. But, I mean, for those that know, I don't know why they still do it.
What has been your secret? What has been the primary thing that has kept you focused when it comes to some of this stuff?
I think it's where I'm at in my life. I really, really want to soak myself in God and soak myself in Christ because I know what He's capable of doing. Because He's using other people, and there's no way that God can't use you if you avail yourself for Him to do it. And I know that God has a plan for each and everyone's life. So, me even getting the hint of like that, I think that's what pushes me and it keeps me focused because I self-educate myself in the Word a lot. So I think that's the main thing that keeps me going.
Wow. Yeah. For those who just joined us, we have our own wonderful sister here, Yvonne Annnor, and we are talking about issues that the youth go through. And she's making some very important points. And this is Holyhills Radio, your super duper radio station. So please share the video. Let somebody know that this is what is being discussed here, and she's being a blessing. You are part of Trumpet of Christ, right? Or you used to be part of it?
I can say I was, or I used to be, or I
still
am.
Okay. How has it shaped your life being part of Trumpet of Christ?
I think that Trumpet of Christ was an avenue where I got to basically open up. I remember Auntie Ivy gave me a mic when I was like 6, and I didn't even know that I could sing. I had never tried it at home. I mean, I knew other people could sing, but I never thought that I could sing. And so she gave me that mic and I sang, and then I don't think it was more of the reaction I got, but it was more of like it's teaching me new things. And it wasn't only about the singing. I mean, we had retreats and we prayed and things like that. So I think it kind of gave me the understanding of God more. But yeah, I think that's the main, way it shaped me. And I got to talk to other people too. It was fun. I mean, traveling and all that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And what can the church? What more can the church do apart from this Trumpet of Christ and stuff like that? Because I know that the youth want to get more involved in the church. What else do you think the church can do to get you guys more involved? Because if you guys are preoccupied, a lot of these issues that we have, I don't think we will go through.
I think that the church could. I think the church is trying to make avenues for the youth, but I think that some of the youth have gotten to the point where they've grown in the church and they're so used to like sitting back that they don't want to. But I think that it should come to a point where like we should call in people randomly to do certain things. I mean, like we should do more for Youth Week, or we should have more Youth Week. So we should have youth become ushers, I guess. Ushers. And even that role could take place in PI. We can have youth become ushers. I think there are certain places where we can put the youth where
for them to know that they are also part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Dekene Mos Safwajimai says really is the key. Too much spiritualism confuses the youth. Do you agree with him? He said it looks like we spiritualize everything.
Yes.
Well, whilst we need to educate them on reality.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Is it just with Ghanaians, or is it something that is just out there?
I haven't
come down to people's level and tell them exactly what is going on.
Yes. I haven't gotten the taste of like how Christians that are not Ghanaian kind of pour things out to their children. But I think for me, and coming from the Ghanaian home, I think we do spiritualize a lot of things. And sometimes I feel like it is spiritual, but it's just the way that they put it. It kind of comes off harsh, especially if like your child isn't that grown or matured in Christ. They'll take it in the wrong way.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Mrs. Kofi is watching.
Hi, Tinana.
Right. My own brother, Dr. Somuah, is watching. And my mother, my wonderful mom, Auntie Adelaide, is watching. Adelaide Asante says, "Good evening, Elder. God bless you for all you do." And then she says, "Hi, baby."
Hi, Auntie.
Yeah, my sister Yaicha is also watching from Houston. Letitia Osebunsu is watching. Wonderful lady, she's watching. And I know she's going to contribute later. Kosia Judith is also watching. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we are talking about the youth and the kind of issues that they go through, and we are being real. They need to be talked to, because most of the issues that the youth go through, about 98%, has to do with the issue of relationship and sex. And unfortunately, for Africans, talking about sex is a taboo. And that is the issue that is there. So what we do as a church and as a community is that we just pretend that the problem is not there.
Yeah.
Until somebody contract a disease or get pregnant outside marriage, and then
I like
we just gossip.
I like what Pastor said today. He gave he gave us a story time, and then he basically told us, he said he's a pastor, but I mean, he has feelings too. And I mean, I think that's one thing that I really love about him, that he's really real. I mean, he'll give it to you plain right there. And I think, like, it's true. Like, we're youth, and I think that's what makes us curious. We have hormones. So, I mean, it'll happen. It's just that we just need to prevent it from happening, because that's not the right way, but we need to prevent it.
But the problem is, how do you prevent it from happening? I mean, you know all these things are there, all these temptations. The guy is telling you lies, and somehow you are also curious. How do you prevent it? Apart from, I mean, all that you've heard, or praying, or what do you do?
I think educating yourself in the word, because I mean, people can, tell you can go to church and hear the preaching, but if you don't go home and you read the verses yourself, because I think God ministers to everyone in a different way, and so the way that he ministered it onto the speaker, when you take it home, he might minister it to you in a whole different light, where you go and you sit down and you're like, whoa, like, this is really that's the, like, it'll really stop you from doing that. But I think that's one thing, like, self-education, and also just don't put yourself in those situations. I mean, it's kind of easy not to put yourself in that situation.
You think so? Don't you think it's rather easy to put yourself in that situation? Like, a guy becomes your friend. You think that's my... Do you have male friends?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of them.
So where do you draw the line? To prevent yourself from falling in love with them.
I mean, most of the guys that are my friends, I see them as brothers first. I don't go into a friendship with a guy thinking that, hey, this might be my boyfriend one day. I go in with, pure intentions, I don't go in thinking that, this is going to be... Yeah, no, I don't think about that at all, because I feel like at the end of the day, God has set who I want. So if I'm thinking this and God's thinking that, we're clashing. It's not going to work. So I don't go into a friendship thinking that, that's what's going to happen. And I mean, I think one thing I do is I like to study people. I like to just sit back and, kind of observe and look around. And so I think before you become friends with people, you need to study them and learn, like, their ways and how they act. And so if you see that, oh, this person that's my friend, I mean, if you see that they're flirtatious, I think that's when you can't put yourself in certain situations, as being alone with that person, or like going to the movies with that guy. I mean, why would you go to movies with a guy that's your friend? But I mean, people do it, and we do think that, nothing can happen.
You don't think going to the movies with a guy who's your friend is a good idea? Unless
there's other people around, I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've never been to a movie with a friend who's a guy?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah. My parents wouldn't even allow it, so yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for those who just joined us, this is Echoes of Grace, and we are talking about the issues of the youth. I mean, these are enormous issues. These are things that have been there so entrenched, it's not easy to deal with. But I know there are solutions to every problem. So we are finding solutions to some of these problems that the youth are confronted with in everyday life. So basically, the first thing, like you are saying, is don't put yourself in some situations. And sometimes people allow themselves to be dragged into issues that later become complex. I believe that is that. You can join us with your contribution 614-577-1434. That is 614-577-1434. Uh-huh. Yeah, and yeah. So you said something like most African, some African parents are like roommates. What do you mean by that?
Um, African parents.
Yeah, like some Africans,
As in,
they don't go beyond. I mean, even coming back from school, they wouldn't ask, how was school and stuff like
yeah,
that.
some African parents and their children are like, I think they kind of end up being like roommates in the sense of that. I mean, we understand that our parents have to go to work and they have to provide for us, but I think that sometimes it comes to a point where our parents, I mean, sometimes just take off and spend time with your kids because some parents, I mean, they go when they come. Some kids barely see their parents. I mean, they'll probably hear them come into the house, but then they're downstairs doing homework or getting ready to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the roommate situation comes to when you have a house and you
Mm-hmm.
get the food, but there's no interaction, or there's like sometimes parents don't even say I love you. Sometimes they're not like, hey, how was school today, or how was this? You're just so focused on I have to go to work, I have to pay bills, and
Bills.
they think that, I mean, not to disrespect any parents out
Mm-hmm.
there, because they are doing, I mean, with things that are going on right now, African parents are doing more than like exceptional. But I think that sometimes there just needs to be a little, emotional interaction. Tell your child, I love you, ask them how they're
The
doing, check up
emotional
on them.
aspect should be taken
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, what did you learn from Michelle's interview? I think that is one of the best
Ooh,
interviews that
yeah.
I've ever had. What do you take from it? I mean, give
I
me
took
an
a
elaborate,
lot.
elaborate explanation of why you think you took a lot.
Well, she went through something that a lot of the youth, I can say, at my church go through. There's a lot of youth that I've come in contact with which are going through the same thing as her, or were going through the same thing, or even worse. And I remember she said something, and I think Anita even talked about it. She said that we go to church and we think that the church is supposed to be, the place where we can go and we can feel comfortable and share our
Mm-hmm.
issues
Mm-hmm.
and, get the love and support. But that's where, I mean, they condemn you the most. And I think that that's something that really feeds into that, because um, talking to people that are going through depression or suicidal thoughts or anxiety, one thing is that it really does sneak up on you. And another thing is that you feel alone and you're ready to give up on life. That's why it ends up turning to suicide. You are ready to give up on life. So I think that when you're at that stage in your life, anything can trigger you to want to commit suicide. And she talked about even how many times she tried to commit suicide and she couldn't ask anyone for help because I'm pretty sure she was scared about the reaction that she would get
Mm-hmm.
back. And that's what a lot of kids that are going through the same thing, that's the worry, not being able to talk to someone because they'll go and tell their parents. And I mean, their parents will channel it into anger and not sit there and actually think about what's going on. But then also, I mean, for her to even be able to sit in this exact chair and speak to people, it taught me that like, no matter what you're going through or no matter how rock bottom you hit, there is still a light at the end of the tunnel.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did you take from Anita?
Um, with Anita's interview, Anita knows how much I love her, so I just loved her interview. And I really loved how she talked about the morals that she was taught and that she had, and just the way that she has to carry herself as a woman of God. I mean, that's one thing that I really took from her interview, and I was like, just wow, and how she's able to be so open with her parents. I think that was one thing that really pulled my attention.
Okay, how about my twin, Jocelyn? What did you take from her too?
Um, Joycelyn's, I loved how she talked about how the parents should take their time and they should explain things to us more instead of just saying, no, you're not going somewhere.
What difference does it make if the parents explains it to you and then what's the difference? If he says no and then she goes further to say this is the reason.
Okay, well let me give an example. So let's say if you're sitting somewhere, if you're at work and there is a caution tape, and everyone's telling you don't go over there, and you see all these ambulances and lights, your first reaction is going to be like, you want to go over there to see exactly what's going on.
Really?
But they're telling you not to go over there, but you want to go and figure out what's going on.
Okay.
But if they tell you, like, oh, don't go over there because this is what's going on, or, like, let's say that, I don't know, someone is bleeding and there's blood everywhere, you're not going to want to get blood on you or something, so you're not going to go over there. And I feel like that's the same thing that happens with parents just telling us no. That, I think, just brings our curiosity to a whole different level, because if you tell me no, it's going to make me want to do it, because I don't understand why you're telling me not to do it. And most of the time, the things that we're doing, it's not wrong in our eyes. So we're like, my mom's telling me no, but there's nothing wrong with it. So why
everybody is doing it.
Yeah,
that is what gets you guys.
Yeah.
When like everybody is doing it, you think that it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. The fact that everybody is doing it also does not mean that it's right.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Majority could be wrong.
Yeah, which I feel like if the parent explains that to the child, they'll sit back and think and be like, oh, wow, well, maybe in this situation my parent was right, and there's no point of me going or doing what I wanted to do.
Okay. Mrs. Yvonne Annnor is watching you and gives you the thumbs up. And my sister Joy Chiama says, God bless you, my wonderful elder. She says I should ask you what the youth are expecting from the parents. And Gladys Opon is watching. Danny Telfi is also watching.
Hi, Danny.
Yeah, so Mrs. Kwanzaa says I should ask you, what do you guys really expect from parents?
I think every child expects something different from a parent depending on their needs, I guess. But I think the main thing is love and getting that interaction, that emotional interaction with your parents, because a lot of the kids don't get it. And I think that's where it honestly starts from. When you allow your child to know that you love them and that they're safe, because when you explain to them that you love them, I think the word love, it really opens up a lot, because if you love me, then you care for me, and you worry about me a lot. So if you're not showing that love, then I feel like your child kind of feels like they don't know how to feel towards you, because you're the parent and you don't love them. So I think that's the number one thing that the youth of today, or that children are seeking from their parents, is, just simple love, telling your child I love you, or, doing certain things, showing up to their school activities or going to their games, because I know a lot of African parents don't, like, it's either our womb or, they have to go to work. But, sometimes taking that time off and just showing up at your child's game or showing up at their honors award assembly or something like that, it really means a lot to the kid. It's just the little things that you do.
Little things.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll be wrapping up in a few minutes. Papa Tony is watching. We have so many people watching you today. So what advice are you going to give to the youth? You talked extensively to the parent that they have to be there. You guys want to see their affection. You want to see that they really care, not just by word of mouth or just providing accommodation. It should not be just roommates, basically. They should go beyond that, care about you, ask you what happened at school. What are you going to tell the youth too? Because they also have a huge responsibility. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, they are in it. And trying to play games with your parents or playing games with adults, it's not really helping. So what are you going to tell the youth?
To my youth, I think that if you see that your parents are trying to make that effort to show you that they love you and to show you that they care, even as much as you've gotten, because I know that us youth, it gets to a point where like you've grown so much without that it gets to a point where you don't need it. But I feel like if your parents are trying to show you that, then you should take it in 100%. And also, I mean, build that trust with your parents. Don't lie to your parents because that'll just make situations worse. So don't lie to them. I mean, show them that you love them too, because I mean, our parents aren't used to that. They're not used to saying I love you. I remember at the parent seminar, we're talking to Pastor and stuff about men. He shared the story with us about one kid that told him that they told their parents they love you, and their parents asked them why. And yeah, the parents asked them, why do you love me? Like, so I think that, I mean, that's one thing we should do. Show them that we love them. Don't do things to provoke your parents. I know some of us, we get very lazy. You know, Saturday morning is for cleaning, but yeah, but that's we don't wake up, we don't clean, so just do what you have to do. Create a balance, church, school, home chores, create a balance and, just leave it to God.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, Mrs. Kofi says we must learn to. Okay, looks like that part did not come. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so the next program is going to be my wonderful friend is here, so you'll be introducing it later. So we have Nana Kofi says we must learn to balance our Ghanaian culture to that of the US culture. Okay. Yeah. So right, what do you have to say about that? The Ghanaian culture. I mean, there's a clash, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there is something that nobody is talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You being born here, your parents they coming from Ghana. He has his way of seeing things completely different. Yeah. You have your way of seeing things. So there must be some middle point where we both meet.
Yeah.
Whereby I have to compromise, you have to compromise. Mm-hmm. You go to school, you are being told something else. You come home and he thinks you are even lucky. For me, in my time, I had only one slave.
To walk to school.
You have four.
Yeah.
You have four and you're asking me that, I'm not providing for you or I'm not doing enough. Yeah, so where do we strike the balance?
I think that what she said is really true. I think that it comes to, it goes back on the opening up to your kids and, you guys having that conversation. I think that we do live in America now, so not everything that worked in Ghana, works here, So I feel like there should be...
What are some of the things that will work in Ghana but wouldn't work here? Can you think about something? As you think about something, Nana Kofi says, let's show them affection and make the youth your friends. Okay, that's a good one.
I think that so they every parent was head of their class.
What?
every single parent was number one, head of their class. But with here, and I think classes in Ghana, I mean, from what I've been told and what I see on Ghana movies, the classes are kind of smaller. It's not
in Ghana movies.
Yeah, okay. I mean the classes do kind of look small. I don't know if that's how it is in reality, but so the classes. How many so about how many people would you think you'd have in
about 40 people in a class?
Okay, see, so that is smaller. With us, we have I know my senior class is out of 100 and something or 200 and something kids. So imagine me competing to have a 4 point. Imagine, I think our valedictorian right now, he has a 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine you're pulling up your all-nighters, you're studying, you have a 4.0, and your parents want you to be head of class. They're not taking no for an answer. They want you to be head of class. But you're competing with someone that has a 4.7 or a 4.5, where in Ghana there's 40 people. So it's kind of out. It's not easier, but it kind of is easier because you're competing against less people.
Okay, I'm going to bring you here another time for us to continue because we have a lot to talk. Amos says the youth must feel a sense of belongingness from their parent. If not, the internet will be their safe haven, and we know the dangers with the internet. Amos, you have a lot to say. I have to invite you here in a very short while, so get ready for me because you have a lot. Today we'll be having a wonderful time. The next program is Testimony Hour with Brother Kenneth Amoa. It's going to be a wonderful one with the prodigal son, so make a date with us. And we want to thank our sister Yvonne. She's been a blessing. Very smart lady. She's been a blessing, and we know you are all going to share the video for us. Mrs. Felicity Dakwa, God bless you. Daniel Aqua, God bless you also for watching. Until we meet again next week, God bless.